Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, Chapter 107. When we last left our heroes, Urza and Misaki exited from the Blue Dimension and then felt all of the extended pain they had from being in the Blue Dimension. Thankfully, Wendy was nearby, having finally arrived with Lily and Haku, to save Urza from the brunt of it. She still took quite a bit of damage, as Wendy noted, and will probably be out for the rest of the arc, is my bet. But with that, most of the gang is reunited, with the exception of Loxus and Lucy and Virgo, who are still off doing their own thing after the fight with Kiria, and Natsu and Suzaku, who head down into the basement, getting closer and closer to Ignia. Speaking of, Ignia finds Eleftheria's heart, hidden in the labyrinth. He notes that Dogramag, in death, was using the heart for some shared plan of theirs. We don't get a lot of details as to what that plan is, but it seems to be why Ignia is here. He also says that as opposed to the implication I had at the start of the arc, that the heart led the way to a specific weapon that Eleftheria wanted out of the wrong hands, it leads to all weapons everywhere. Which could be bad, and he implies that Selene wanted that to kill him and Viernes. And so he destroys the heart. Eleftheria reappears in the real world, dying, as Crowboy, whose name I have still not learned, calls for him. And Ignia and Selene turn to their dragon forms and are about to throw down as Natsu and Suzaku find them. So, big hype moments that ended last chapter. But now, let's dive on into Chapter 107, Duel of the Dragons, which is one hell of a title right there. And our pictures of Natsu in a hole in the ground, having caught a mouse holding a potion. This man has the best nose in Fairy Tail. Even if you're underground, you can't escape him. Chapter 107, Duel of the Dragons. And we pick up where we left off, with Selene and Ignia about to grab each other. They just stare each other down for a minute though, just to a page of reestablishing where we are. And Suzaku calls out, "Good gods! What do we do, Natsu?" And it's interesting to me that, initially, when they joined up together, they were in this sort of, how do I put this? They were in this, they were allies because they had to be. Whereas here, though, Suzaku's actually looking to Natsu for insight. There's a sense of them being allies now, not just sort of, begrudgingly not enemies. But Natsu questions, "What do we do? Those two are going to duke it out, right?" And he's just beaming. "So we're going to join in, obviously. I'm all fired up." And Suzaku is understandably just what the fuck have I walked in on? And Happy tells him, that's just Natsu being Natsu. Then we cut to Selene, who has seemingly not noticed them yet, and says, "A bout between dragon gods. Neither of us will walk away unscathed." And Ignia, full of confidence, just lets loose a flame breath. "Wanna bet?" And Selene counters with a moonbeam breath. Again, some of these abilities don't quite work for breath attacks, but it's a breath of some kind of energy. And the two clash in the middle. And just the sheer force of the explosion throws Natsu back. Whoa! Happy and Suzaku are at least right side up. Not quite as thrown back as Natsu. Wah! And Suzaku covers his face in the blast. "My katana could not so much as scratch the labyrinth walls, and yet they easily." Oh, right, we haven't really seen, but... So Suzaku says that before we can really get a clear shot of the labyrinth. But what little we can see there implies that, they've blown a hole up through the labyrinth. It looks like they're, they were in the basement. They look to be more in a upper area of the labyrinth. But also, if those little ridges there are each their own floor, those dragons have gotta be 7-8 stories tall. Which, maybe is established for dragon heights. It's been a long time. Since we've seen, the last time we saw a normal-sized dragon would have been, Mercphobia. Selene was never really, comparing to... There weren't really buildings around for comparing Selene. And I think Elmina might have been flooded by the time Mercphobia made his full dragon appearance. So we don't often get these senses of scale. And I think what we're seeing there is that these dragons are 70, 80 feet tall. Which, Gigantic there. Or I will say, though, in this, it might just be a scale thing. In this bottom right panel of page 7, that head alone, to scale, with the rest of the labyrinth further back is maybe 6 stories on its own. But, realistically, it's still at least 1 or 2 stories. They're huge, is the point. And he gets all these little, pellets of flame magic behind him. And they all start shooting at Selene. And Selene takes the hit. She's burnt up a little bit, and then she rushes at Ignia and headbutts him. And then she has these sort of kitsune tails. They don't normally comment on how different she is from other dragons, actually. Because most dragons are very sort of Western reptilian-style dragons, like lizards, But she's very much like a kitsune, which is an interesting thing that I've never really brought up before. But either way, she smacks Ignia with one of her tails. He sends flying down to the ground, crashes it. And Natsu gets some flashbacks to the last time we had a dragon fight. Ignia popping out of his body to fight Acnologia, and then Ignia's death. Taking Acnologia's arm and losing his chest and dying. Back at the fight, Selene taunts, "Those were the flames of the son of Ignia, the fire dragon king. Don't make me laugh." And she goes for a claw attack. Moonlight palm! And it does some damage to Ignia. Whoa! And Suzaku just comments, "This is different from when she battled me. So this is the true Selene." Yeah, that's kind of what Selene got at the time. That her human form was a lot weaker than her dragon form. But Ignia just taunts, "Don't make me laugh. That's my line. Don't you dare compare me to his level." And there's this, sheer force of fire magic. And Selene catches fire. Which I guess being made of fur, or having a furred body as opposed to scales, might be a little worse for her. "My body, it's burning. Wah!" And Ignia just laughs. "Ha ha 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 ha! Selene! So ends the dragon who cozied up to humans." But Selene is not giving up like that. Just sort of growls at Ignia. "Grr, ugh." And instead of fighting back, she makes another one of those dimensional portals and jumps into it. "You running from me, Selene?" But no. Oh, that's interesting. She reappears above him with either an Aqua Era, or she used that dimensional rift thing to go through an ocean before coming back the other side. That looks like the Aqua Era that Toka used. And the initial, rip did not look like... on page 13, that does not look like Aqua Era. But either way, she's back. Flames put out. And Ignia just comments, "I get it. So you went through the water. But my flames will..." And cutting him off, Selene throws down moonlight butterflies. And it's just this full-on beam of light surrounds Selene. There's little butterfly effects around it. Interestingly, though, we can see Selene's silhouette, but not Ignia's. Either Ignia got away, or the force of the attack is so strong on Ignia that he doesn't show up while Selene does because she's not being attacked here. Yeah, it did hit him. Did a good deal of damage. And Selene taunts, "Your greatest weakness is your arrogance. You believe that nobody can defeat you." And Ignia seemingly allows Selene to get close to him in this weakened state, and then turns on Selene. "I believe it because it's true. Now it's my turn." And he readies some flames as Selene approaches. And Natsu then just yells, "Stop!" He's having some bad war flashbacks now. You can see the sweat visible on his face. This is affecting him a hell of a lot more than I think he thought it would. This is traumatic for him. And I don't think he really saw that coming. I don't think anyone quite saw... I made the comparisons to the Ignia Acno fight last chapter, but I didn't think it would impact him like this. And Selene and Ignia turn to look at him. Happy calls Natsu! And Suzaku is shocked at something. or shocked, of course, at Natsu's outburst. I don't know why I said something. And he's flashing back to Ignia's final words. The days I spent with you were the happiest of my life. And Natsu falls to his knees, flashes back to Ignia's dead corpse. And Selene comments, why stop us? Regardless of which of us wins, it's still one less enemy for you to worry about. So, again, Selene isn't quite understand. I'm not sure if Selene knows Natsu's relationship to Ignia. Ignia sure does, though. What, did I remind you when the old man died? I know all about it. Acnologia got him real good. And Natsu just sort of sits there, taking Ignia's taunting. And Ignia goes on, my old man was the strongest dragon. But Acnologia still killed him. But I'm different, Natsu. If it were me, I would have beat Acnologia. That's something about that line feels almost comforting, which is weird from Ignia. Or not. Okay. What Ignia does do is yell, like this, and just shoots a beam right through Selene. Okay. Alright. That's something. I feel like I've been bringing out the whole totally shocked routine a lot lately, but that's because I keep running into things that need it, that have it. Chosen every fucking chapter, this. I did it once for another video recently. I forget what it was. But still, what is... I mean, it's fairy tales. There's always the question of, is Selene actually dead? But the way this whole thing seems meant to mirror Ignia versus Acno, and that injury is very similar to what killed Ignia. It's, a beam attack and not sheer force of, tearing. But still, that might just have killed Selene. Selene was like, and Suzaku calls Selene! And Happy says, and Natsu stares wide-eyed. Ignia laughs. As Selene falls, Natsu calls, Ignia! To be continued. Okay. So Natsu's rage is really interesting to me here. Because, it's, normally when Natsu gets angry at a character getting beat, it's because that's his friend. Natsu will fight like hell for his friend. It's one of his defining character traits. We all know this. This is not that. He doesn't give a damn about Selene. Why the fuck would he care about Selene, who's done all this terrible shit to him? Everything that happened in Elantir, everything that happened to Ferris and Toka is all Selene's fault. Why would he care? This isn't caring about Selene. This is just pure trauma. This is just pure trauma for him. This is pure flashback. He's not seeing Selene die there. He's seeing Ignia. He's reliving the worst day of his life. So yeah. Let's talk about this chapter. Because, it's certainly fucking explosive. Just the sheer, So, Mercphobia was sort of brain dead, right? When he went crazy, it was because Ferris took away his individuality, took away his power, his sense of control. He wasn't a thinking being. Alderaan also largely split up his power among the God Seeds. This is kind of our first time seeing the Dragon Gods going all out. Selene was saving her human form for her fights. Ignia didn't really contribute too much to the Mercphobia incident. This is sort of our first time seeing the Dragon Gods going all out. And it sure is explosive. They're blowing holes in the labyrinth left and right. They're just fucking gigantic. They're going, these all-powerful attacks that are, by and large, until the very end, not doing a whole lot. And honestly, I'm curious if Selene wasn't kind of distracted listening to Natsu, would she, put up a better fight against Ignia at the end there? Is it only really Natsu's fault that Selene died, ? Because, it might just be, it might be Natsu, that little slight distraction ended up giving Ignia the edge. But that's the other thing here, is that, I think in part because of the time skip, because of that 1 year time skip right after Ignia died, we never really got to see Natsu emotionally deal with the fallout of watching his father die. We had him like cry, as he died. Of course, this is fairy tale. People cry here, but this response is so different. This isn't, and I don't think he saw this coming either. He was so gung ho to join the fight at the start of the chapter. If you look back, before the fight started, back on page 4, he was all fired up, and then. Surprising Natsu even, those flashbacks came. And all of a sudden he was back in the ruins of the cube watching Ignia die. And we'll see what Natsu does in response to Ignia forcing him to relive that worst memory. But I'm hyped to find out. I will say that one thing, not really about this chapter, but the arc as a whole, is that, this is clearly the climactic fight, right? Even if, at least of the arc, of the Labyrinth arc, even if Selene isn't dead, this whole encounter here is the climax. And yet the series is doing that thing where, you started the climactic fight, but there are still other fights that still have to happen. Kirine is still kicking. And really just Kirine at this point. And I don't know, maybe Kirine will be saved for later, or if Diabolos has some loyalty towards Selene, as Suzaku seems to have on page 19, and Ignia killed Selene, could this be the start of a larger partnership between the two guilds? Could Team Natsu end up allying with the Dark Dragon Knights and maybe even Kiria, Madmol, and Skullion to get at Ignia? Maybe. Because I will say, even if Selene is dead here, Ignia will not die here. Ignia will not fall. Ignia, even if he doesn't die, he's just defeated or whatever, that will not happen here. He will get away. He will win. This is not the Ignia arc. This is either still the Selene arc or the Dogramag arc, whatever you want to call it. This is not the part where Ignia dies. This is not where Ignia leaves the story. I don't know what will end up happening that makes him not kill Natsu and Suzaku, as he very much could right now. But he won't do that because, this is Fairy Tail, and he won't lose here. Those are my two bets. One is a certain thing, the other is more of a bet. But yeah, that's, that really might be how Selene goes. The way it's meant to, mirror Ignia's death feels very intentional. So yeah. That's where we are now. The battle's just getting started, but it does look like Selene might be gone for good right now. She might not be. There might be some bullshit. Maybe the moon has a different has some healing properties or something. But for now, it sure looks like Ignia just won that fight, leaving a bit of a chance for an alliance between Fairy Tail and Diabolos. If, of course, Natsu and Suzaku can survive Ignia. So yeah, with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!